Whether I'm writing something that's called an essay, something that's called a novel, something that's called a short story, something that's called a play, something that's, I guess that's pretty much all I write, right? But essentially something that's called fiction or nonfiction, I do the same thing. I cast around in my what I have noticed lately file, and I bring, unlike chunks of the physical world together into proximity and see if by bringing them together they make something greater than the sum of their parts. And I don't pay much attention to whether it really happened or not. Like for me, the difference between fiction and nonfiction is really all about narrative stance. It's not about whether it happened or not. When I'm writing nonfiction, I allow myself a certain amount of retrospective knowledge and a certain particular kind of overview. And in fiction, I try to be as naive as I possibly can going into the writing process. And really, that's the difference for me. But I choose my details from the world, and then I shape it into a form. And sometimes that form is fiction, and sometimes it's nonfiction, and sometimes it's a novel, and sometimes it's a short story, sometimes it's a play. But I mean, I'm afraid I sound like I'm being evasive, and I'm not being evasive, or I'm not trying to be evasive. Everything I write about is something that I have experienced, either at the center of it or on the periphery. And then it gets shaped. And somewhere in that process, characters emerge sometimes. Or they don't, and then it's an essay. I don't make anything like a hard and fast distinction between the two things. If the world didn't call it nonfiction and fiction, it would be fine with me. It would not rattle my process at all if we all of a sudden abolished those two categories. And I realize when I say that in a room full of journalists or whatever, they get very upset. I realize that there are people whose job it is to report the way it really happened, and that they feel it's very important that people, maintain some integrity in that regard. But I'm not that person. I'm not hired to report what really happened. So, and my belief system is that even if I tried really, really hard to report what really happened, language wouldn't let me, because, language shifts. Language won't stand still. That's why we love it. And even if I really tried to make everything up, I don't even know what that would mean. I can't even imagine what that would be. I can't even imagine it. Like total, pure invention, I can't imagine it. Because even if I were going to set a book, in the future, there'd still be a peanut butter sandwich, and I know what one tastes like. You know what I mean? So I've never really been able to sort out the difference. And I'm kind of comfortable there. I'm comfortable floating in the space between. I like the freedom to make things up that fiction affords me. If the story asks for it. But all my fiction begins in the same place as my nonfiction, in my actual experience. Again, whether I'm at the center of that experience or whether I'm on the periphery observing it.